How does that feel coming up on this 20 years? I mean, what have you learned as a teacher?
Pure insanity. I cannot believe I've been working for 20 years. I cannot believe I've been in teaching for 20 years. It seems like just yesterday that I was closing the door and my first students were looking at me like, what we gonna do, lady? And I'm like, I don't know. What are we gonna do? It's been a roller coaster.
I did some research about the literacy levels in students. I know after we went through COVID, students were learning online. I came across a podcast called Soul to Story, and it detailed the evolution of the learning and the reading curriculum that has become so popular in schools. And the producer of the show highlighted that our students pretty much cannot read. They're guessing how to read instead of actually learning how to read. So what has been your experience with that in the classroom? Are students guessing how to read? Like, what's up with that?
I think in my 20 years, I was at that weird point where there was still, for lack of a better term, the instruction when we were kids, phonics, sounding out words, letters, and that sound. And that was still taking place, but it was a new movement coming along about attacking the text and what is the text really asking you, and extended responses and all of those. What I have seen is that I wish we were still back with phonics and learning that way, and phonics going and then attacking the text later. I have been in buildings where some teachers were like, I'm throwing this attacking the text out the building. My kids need to learn how to read. I did not work primarily with younger students, but I did work with older students where in order for them to attack and understand the text, we have to go back to the fundamentals, which some of them were lacking. And it wasn't necessarily because of where I taught or what I was teaching or what they were exposed to. It's because this is what has changed across the board. I did read some articles as well that there's a shift going on where educators and administrators alike are going, did we do our students a disservice with what we taught them with attacking the text and with doing this and doing that? And they don't have the fundamentals. Because as I said, when I started with this 20 years in, I'm to the point where those students are older and they're seeing a difference.
Right, right. So what is that like as a teacher when you are confronting students who cannot read? Like, what does that feel like for you?
It's heartbreaking and it's frustrating. It can make you angry because sometimes it's like, how's this baby gone this far? From me, for instance, I started off, I've taught 6th, 7th, 8th, all the way up to 11th grade. So I've gotten them when they're bigger. So it's a combination of emotions. It's frustration because how has this baby slipped through? It's anger because sometimes you have to look at the teachers they had previously and they just were not good teachers. And sometimes they would be in front of teachers who were like, they couldn't do it anyway. So why am I trying?
Really?
Yeah, which I've literally heard a teacher say. So glad she's retired. It is, okay, they're in front of me now. What can I do to best support my student? I can't go back and change the past. What can I do to best support my student? Well, I have taught reading and early in my career. I've primarily done social studies, science. I sprinkle some math in there as well, but all of those incorporate reading.
Right, exactly. So if you don't know how to read, you're pretty much failing at everything else because that is the building block of retaining other types of information, you know?
Yeah, it's
Um,
different. It's difficult.
I bet. So how do you teach somebody how to read? Like, just for those of us listening, if we have young children, if we have, children that are struggling, how do you what is the process of teaching somebody how to read? And, how do you do it properly?
You have to meet the student where they are. So are they good with vowel sounds? Are they good with consonants? Is the issue that they are reading but not understanding the text? Is the issue that it's sounding out words? But also in meeting them where they are, you can't continue to go backwards. And that was something I had to learn. So let's say I have a student that's a non-reader, or that I have a 6th grade student that's reading at a 4th grade level. I need to see what skills I need to put in place to supplement where they are. I can't keep giving this student 4th grade work. I still have to have them access 6th grade work because they are going to go forward. And I'm doing them a disservice if I'm spending half the year, which I have done early in my career, only giving them 4th grade work. So you find a way to incorporate it in as well, but you can't go backwards and stay back.
That's a good point. I think that says a bit about the belief that we have in our students. If we believe like you are capable of learning, then I'm going to give you some 6th grade work. I'm going to teach you above your grade level versus pacify and perpetuate these these thoughts or these stereotypes about you. So your boy Trump just got reelected, and there was some rumors that he was going to dismantle the Department of Education. How do you dismantle a whole what? Can you do that?
I am going to be completely and totally honest. I am not ready to digest all of that. As an educator, I'm used to people coming at us with attacks. As an educator, I'm also used to us fighting. As an educator, I have and will continue to do, okay, that's what's going on out there. When I close the door, this is what we're doing in here. And that's it. Like, this is what we're doing in here. Yeah. I'm used to it. I'm used to us always being a villain. I'm used to us folks trying to tell us what to do. I'm used to people sitting behind the desk saying this, but they will not step foot on the front lines. They won't. They won't.
So many books have been banned over the last, couple decades, like literally, like within the past, 10 years, books that you're like, what? Why are they banning this? Like, this is history. How has the history book changed since you first started teaching?
I think it is slowly trying to become whitewashed to make some people feel comfortable, because for a while there was this trend where the history and the stories that don't get told were coming out. And it was hard for some people to face that this is what really happened. And this makes people uncomfortable. I attended a PWI. I attended Ball State University, and it was 22,000 people. And I believe at the time I was there, the population of minorities was about 7 or 8%. And so I was a renegade and still was in college. And so holding up the mirror to some of my white counterparts, they did not like it. It was uncomfortable to realize their role that was being played. And I think that was coming out in history for a while. Now, I think that some may not want to recognize the role that's being played, and then others feel threatened that their power is being taken away. And so it is a way to, I would kind of say, dehumanize and whitewash history. And me being a renegade, I have always taught all sides of history in my class. I'm not here to make you uncomfortable. I'm here to present the information and have my students decide what they will. But I cannot sit in front and not tell the truth. I am 44, so I've lived through quite a few events. I was there. This is not me reporting back on it based on what I've read. I was there.
What sticks out to you in your mind when you say you was there? What specific event crystallized you being a history teacher and really being able to tell your students, like, hey, this is what this says, but this is also what happened too?
The biggest event that stands out, and I just told the story because I remember what happened with September 11th. I remember watching September 11th. I remember getting up and getting dressed for class, and the TV was on, and I saw the planes hit the tower, and I'm like, I don't want to watch this movie, so I changed the channel. And then the movie, I'm like, dang, this movie is on every channel. And then my roommate, who was in the military, came rushing in and was like, a plane just hit the towers. And my first immediate thought is that she's in the military, and I absolutely adore my roommate. What's going to happen? And then I remember walking around campus. It was 22,000 people. When I tell you that there was no one on campus, and if you did go into a building and people were there, everybody were looking at the screens that were posted. I just remember the uncertainty. And what I share with my students is that we watch wars on TV. We watched the Iraq War. We watched this country at war. We watched this. And I remember thinking that could possibly be us. And then at the time, my parents lived in the south suburbs, but we were only 20 miles from Chicago. Chicago's a major city. That was one of the events. I'm talking about the Black Lives Matter protests, talking about the pandemic. I have talked about the crack epidemic in my class, and I've talked about the crack epidemic and the reaction to it versus the meth epidemic that is going on, and versus the pill epidemic that is going on, and the way that both were handled differently. The crack epidemic had crack babies, white tanks going through Compton and victimizing. The pill and meth epidemic had sympathy, support, and drug counseling. And who were the two demographics that were affected? And this was something that was close to my heart. My family was directly affected, and we lived in the city in Chicago up until 1994. So we saw it firsthand. That is something else that we have talked about. If we're going to talk about the 80s and the Reagan administration and me teaching history, baby, we got to cover what was going on and where the money for the crack epidemic came from and was funding.
So how do your students react to that information? Are they familiar with it, or are they kind of like, what?
They're typically quiet, and then it kind of makes sense to them too, because in the neighborhoods that I have taught, I can tell them this is what it was like in the 80s, and then the crack epidemic hit. So while you were walking past this house boarded up, this house boarded up, and this one, this is not what it's like, but this is what happened. Grandma had this house. Grandma died. Her kids got addicted to crack, and they lost their house, and no one came forward. If we talk about Chicago history, my dad grew up in Robert Taylor projects, and he would have us drive through the neighborhoods, and they started tearing down the projects. And I'm like, projects. He was like, anything above the fourth floor in the projects is lakefront property. I said, what you talking about? He's like, if it faces east, it's lakefront property. He was like, people are close to the expressway. Downtown isn't far away. There's all type of different amenities. There's a plan for this land. And in some of the other neighborhoods that I have taught, I have talked to my students about this is what it could be. This is what it was. This is what's happening. There's bigger things at play. And oftentimes there are light bulbs that go off. The point of me doing this in my class is not for you to agree or disagree. The point of me doing this in my class is to get you thinking when you see things happen. It may not just be here. There's different roles in play. O-Block, give O-Block 10 years, and those apartments are going to be redone and owned by the university. If not owned by the university, I swear, give O-Block 10, 15 years, and it's going to be something different.
How do you facilitate critical thinking in young adults? And I guess the follow-up question to that is, do you think social media has a role in the way we think? Do you think it has hindered or helped us think at all?
I think it can be used for good and bad. With all things, it's a tool. What it looks like with critical thinking in my class is sometimes when my students are arguing over this video they posted, or we may talk about something in history, and they'll be like, such and such said this. What source did they use?
Right.
Where'd they get the information from? Did you take the information that they gave you and look it up? No? Well, come back and let's talk about it. And that's where the critical thinking, I'm not out there going, this is this. What do you think about it? What are the other things at play? And so that's where the critical thinking piece comes in. And it has to be an authentic moment, because if it comes across just as Miss Sims teaching, everybody's not going to get it. They're in school. You sit in a class of 30 students. Some people are not paying attention. Some people are. Somebody's going to ask to go to the bathroom. It just is what it is. But if it's in an authentic moment, you're more likely to get the students' attention.
I love that. You start off as a young teacher, year one, you don't know what to do. You're kind of afraid, but now you're at year 20. You're like, listen, I'm your mama. So like, what has that evolution been like for you as a teacher over these past 20 years in relation to your students and how you approach the classroom?
It has been a joy and a pleasure to watch my babies grow up. It has been an honor to watch them grow up. It looks different now when I have them in there. We're learning the life lessons on how do you respond to this, the work habits and the study habits and the relationship building. And that still goes on now. What it looks like with my students that are adults is I'm texting them when they graduate from college, or I'm a Delta, so one of my students crossed and I got to pin her. And it also looks like you keep posting dude on Facebook. I know dude ain't no good. When you start posting Kelly Price lyrics and Ari Lennox lyrics and SZA, let me go ahead and send you this Facebook message and check on my baby. He ain't it. And
Right.
Quite a few of my students have had, man, look, I'm like, let me just wait till she start posting SZA lyrics and go ahead and send that Facebook message. It looks like two of my students have had babies and postpartum has hit them pretty bad. And so I've reached out to them for that. It looks like forgive yourself, because you're 24 and a lot of people on your timeline have gone to college and have gotten married and do all of those things. Baby, if you get off that post and scratch it, it looks pretty, but that's not it. Your journey is your journey. It looks like celebrating. It looks like worshiping with some of them at church. It looks like texting some of my students to make sure they're still alive, looking at Cook County lockup to see where they are and seeing how much time they got. And at least I know they got 3 hots in a cot and they're in one spot.
Life as a Chicago teacher, okay?
Yeah,
God damn.
It looks like all of that. In the classroom, it has been weird because in the last, I've been in my school 8 years. In the last 8 years, I had to come to terms with I'm not the young teacher anymore. I am the teacher that people see as the veteran. And teaching wise, okay, yeah, that's good, but I had to come to terms with my age. I wasn't ready to be that old yet, even though I'm not, but the kids I am. Because we had a new teacher that started, and she was a young teacher. And there was a little bit of jealousy there because I wanted to be the new young teacher. And it's like, you're not anymore. Like when you leave here, you got to go to daycare. And even though I didn't feel that old, it was a struggle to realize, what is my role now? What role do I play? And I'm finally comfortable in it. I am finally comfortable in it, but it was a journey, and it was a journey I did not expect.
I love that. And I think that goes for any woman, right? Growing up and coming to terms with the passage of time and age. And, again, like you said, our role in society, really, and in our lives. I think a lot of us struggle with, I guess, becoming, I love Michelle Obama. And her book, that's what the premise of the book was about. It's just like, you are never actually, it ain't over till it's over. You're never there. You're always becoming, right? And as you become more of yourself, no matter what age it is, I mean, you really have to be, that's the honesty, that's that vulnerability, that's that self-awareness, right? So I love that. What does that next chapter look like for you as somebody who's on the other side of this?
It's been twofold. I've often used this analogy of a leather coat. And I got this leather coat when I'm in my 20s, and I put it on and it's kind of tight and it don't quite feel right, but I'm gonna wear it. And then in my 30s, it's been broken in a little bit. This coat is kind of nice. Maybe in my 40s, this leather coat feels good. Stepping into these shoes feels awesome. It feels like, yes, you've been writing me and I love you dearly, but I don't feel like it. It's a new episode of Love After Lockup. Or it feels like, I don't want to quote Smokey, but I sometimes hear the words coming out of my mouth as an educator and a 44-year-old woman. And I'm like, damn it, Lanette, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you because I remember a time when you would have questioned yourself, or you wouldn't have said it, or you would have said it on the way home, or you would have said it and apologized. And girl, do you hear yourself? Like, do you hear you? It looks like me not asking anybody for permission or waiting for somebody to tell me I did a good job. And that is only, as an educator, that is only something I have come to terms with in the last 6-7 months. Because I have been on this journey where I wanted to do more. I desired to do more. And I'm talking about in the leadership position. And it just was not happening for me. So I kept going with something that is wrong with me. And I finally came to the terms, it's not something wrong. I didn't do anything. This was all God. Because Lanette was on the floor, boo-hoo, crying. It's not something wrong with me. One, it's not my turn. Two, this could be the dream I have for myself, but God he has a bigger dream. And then three, not only do I have 20 years in, I'm good. And my evidence is in the students that reach out to me, that hug me, the parents I see. I don't need anybody. And my evidence is also in my work, how I can walk in a space and I can fill in the gaps, how I can walk in a teacher space and go, with love, this is what you're doing well, this is what you need to work on. And they come back to me and go, it worked. This feels good, and that coat feels real nice now. So
I need to buy me a damn leather coat. I'm about to listen. I love that because you're absolutely right. Like, we have to stop. We got to step into it. Like, girl, just put your coat on. Let that thing warm up on you and be comfortable with who you are. And I love how you said timing is not my time. I've been thinking more and more about time in my life. How does the passage of time either help me or hinder me in the pursuit of my goals, right? Am I saying this is taking too much time, or am I saying each moment towards the goal is the treat, right? Like, time is our friend, and we have to stop allowing it. We have to stop allowing our clock to be measured by somebody else's clock, right? Your clock ticking, my clock ticking. Like, it's okay. So, but yeah, I love that. Well, good for you, girl, because you seem like you are ready to go into your new season. Who knows? You might be off to Jamaica sometime soon, or, like in another country, girl, just living your best life.
Yeah, public speaking, that is what I love to do. And I would love to do public speaking about teachers at a crossroads, which is where I was and I am. And then I would love to talk to administrators about who are you not seeing in your building. And then I would love, love, love to coach new teachers in a 4-part series, welcoming them into teaching in the family dynamic, teaching in the neighborhoods, like why are you here? And then, of course, the teaching in the instructional part, because I have found with new teachers, the biggest thing that they struggle with is not the instruction. It is the whole everything that comes with teaching that you are not aware of. It is the trauma dump that you may give your partner when you get home. It is the guilt that you feel because you have been giving to other people's kids all day as much as you love them. You have nothing to give when you get home. It is the going off on your kid when you get home, not because they necessarily did something wrong, but they exhibit a behavior that you see in class that you can't stand. And you can't go off on that kid. So your kid catches hell when you get home. Guilty. Had to fix that. So that is my desire and what I want to do in the platform I've been working on. And I want to do a TED Talk. I'm going to do a TED Talk. And
listen, and that's all you got to say. Like it's, and so it is.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
And so it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely, if you want it, it's out there. It's yours for the taking, So I'm excited for your TED Talk, girl. With 2027, what's up? 2026, where we at?
But yeah,
I'll be right there with like Carisha was with Diddy. Hey, right there in the front, child. But yeah, that's excellent. So we are nearing the end. As you know, this is the Unsolicited Podcast. So what is your one piece of unsolicited advice you want to give to our listeners right now?
For those of us that work in education, you will fall in love with your students. You will fall in love with the school. You will love everything about it. Do not forget this one thing. Education is a business and it is run as such. So emotions will need to go out of the door, because education is a business. Do not lose sight of that. Do not lose sight of that. Do not make the mistake I did. Do not lose sight of that. It is a business and it will be ran as such. So while you are still in love with your students, also understand your role in that business, what you want to do and where you want to go, and act accordingly. That's my advice.